What if I told you that dragons don't just inhale fire? They actually manufacture it inside their bodies. Imagine the crackle of molten embers forming in your chest, waiting to be unleashed in a blaze of fury. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes you'll learn not only how these legendary beasts might really breathe fire, but also the hidden biology, chemistry, and evolutionary secrets behind their scorching power. Ready? Let's dive in. Deep in the annals of myth and legend, the image of a fire-breathing dragon strikes fear into the heart of any would-be hero. From the towering worms of ancient Norse sagas to the sleek Asian serpents that wound through clouds of incense smoke, every culture has imagined its own version of flame-spewing beasts. But how would a real creature pull off such a feat? To unravel this mystery, we need to combine a little paleontology, a dash of biochemistry, and a generous helping of speculative evolution. First, consider the raw challenge. Expelling a stream of fire means two things: generating a combustible substance within the body and igniting it at just the right moment outside the mouth. In modern nature, the closest analogues are limited. Bombardier beetles spray boiling, corrosive chemicals, and electric eels generate high-voltage bursts, yet neither produces actual flame. So, for dragons to breathe fire, their anatomy must be uniquely adapted. Let's start with the fuel. Imagine a specialized organ, let's call it the pyrophore, deep in the dragon's torso, nestled between powerful flight muscles. Inside the pyrophore, two complementary glandular chambers secrete separate chemical compounds. One chamber produces a highly combustible hydrocarbon-rich oil, akin to a supercharged kerosene. The other secretes an oxidizing acid, somewhat like concentrated nitric acid. Alone, these substances are relatively stable. Together, mixed in precise proportions, and then ignited, they erupt into roaring flame. But how would a dragon store and handle such volatile substances without self-immolation? Evolution has likely equipped it with ultra-tough membranes and valves lined with keratinized tissue, similar to human fingernails, but far stronger and heat-resistant. These membranes compartmentalize the fuel and oxidizer, preventing accidental contact. A series of one-way valves ensures that each compound flows only when the dragon consciously triggers the release, avoiding backflow and catastrophic cross-contamination. Next, let's think about ignition. Some theories suggest a spark system, tiny electrocytes in specialized throat nodules that function like a built-in spark plug. When the dragon flexes specific muscles, these nodules generate a high-voltage discharge, igniting the mixture as it exits the mouth. Picture it. A dragon rears its head, and you see a faint blue glow pulsing in its throat just before the fiery blast erupts. Alternatively, dragons might rely on catalytic ignition. The mixed chemicals pass over a bed of platinum group element crystals embedded in the dragon's palate, causing spontaneous combustion. Either way, the sight is nothing short of spectacular. Yet dragons must also protect themselves from their own flame. The interior of the mouth and throat is lined with a thick layer of heat-shield epidermis, scales, with an enamel-like surface that reflects heat outward. Beneath this enamel is a layer of fat and connective tissue infused with special proteins that dissipate heat rapidly, preventing burns. The tongue itself is reinforced by cartilage struts and flexible metallic deposits, giving it both strength and resilience under extreme temperatures. So far, we've covered how dragons might generate, store, and ignite their fiery breath. But where did these adaptations come from? Let's take a step back and consider the evolutionary path. Early proto-dragons were likely simple winged reptiles that scavenged carrion and hunted small game. In regions where competition was fierce, any edge like the ability to ward off predators or flush prey from hiding would be advantageous. A mutation that allowed the production of mild, irritant chemicals in the throat could deter attackers. Over generations, this irritant became more potent, evolving into a flammable substance when combined with other secretions. Natural selection favored individuals with more impressive displays, and thus, the fire-breathing organs grew more specialized. As dragons diversified, different species evolved unique variations. Mountain dragons developed denser coats of insulating scales to withstand higher temperatures, and their pyrophores synthesized sulfur-rich compounds, creating choking, acrid smoke along with fire, ideal for clearing narrow passes. Sea dragons, living near volcanic vents, absorbed trace elements like vanadium from their diet, depositing them in catalytic glands to produce green-tinged flames visible even underwater. Forest dragons adapted to humid climates by storing their fuels in oil-filled sacks, maintaining stability despite moisture. Across the globe, the shared blueprint persisted: dual glands, heat-resistant lining, and an ignition mechanism. Now, let's explore what happens in the split second before a dragon unleashes its blaze. As the dragon inhales, it draws oxygen deep into its lungs, priming them to support combustion. The wings flex, raising the chest cavity and compressing the pyrophore chambers. Muscular sphincters relax, allowing the fuel and oxidizer to surge forward into a mixing chamber in the throat. The dragon's heart rate accelerates, pumping oxygenated blood to cool the surrounding tissues. A low rumble builds in the dragon's chest, the resonance of vibrating vocal folds adapted to sound like a growl, warning those nearby. And then, with a flick of the tongue, the mixture contacts the spark nodules or catalytic crystals. In that instant, a burst of orange-white flame wedges through the dragon's open jaws, soaring out in an awe-inspiring jet that can reach temperatures of 900 degrees C or more, hot enough to melt iron. We mustn't forget the aftermath. After a sustained blast, the pyro organs need time to reset, draining the mixing chamber, cleaning residual chemicals down specialized ducts, and resealing the membranes are all energy-intensive processes. During this recovery, the dragon is vulnerable, so it typically reserves its fire breath for decisive moments, defense, hunting large prey, or territory disputes. Short, powerful bursts are most common. A dragon that constantly spews flames would risk internal damage and rapid depletion of valuable resources. Of course, we've painted a vivid speculative picture, but clues in fossil records and folklore lend support. In certain Jurassic-era deposits, paleontologists have uncovered fossilized reptile skulls with oddly thickened palatal bones and channels near the rear jaw, potential conduits for chemical glands. Meanwhile, medieval manuscripts and Asian scrolls often describe dragons exhaling smoke before flame, hinting at a two-stage process. First a choking vapor, then fire. Could these be echoes of real biological phenomena adapted into myth? It's entirely plausible. But what about the nutritional cost? Producing combustible oils and potent acids requires metabolizing large amounts of high-energy prey. Dragons likely have voracious appetites, consuming rich protein sources, large mammals, sometimes carrion, to fuel their chemical factories. Some legends mention dragons guarding treasure hoards. Maybe that treasure was partly a stockpile of metallic catalysts and sulfur crystals needed for their pyrophores. In this sense, gold wasn't just shiny loot, it was dragon currency for maintaining their irrepressible fire. Yet the true marvel is how such a creature balances flame production with other vital needs. Flight demands lightness, heavy chemical glands, and insulating armor seem counterintuitive. Here, nature offers a lesson: honeycomb structures. Inside the dragon's bones and glands, a lattice of carbonized tubes, analogous to bird bones, provides maximum strength at minimal weight. The pyrophore chambers are surrounded by a honeycomb matrix that absorbs shock and insulates without bulk. Similarly, the enamel-like scales are thin but layered in overlapping microplates, dispersing heat efficiently. Now picture a baby dragon, newly hatched beneath the embers of a volcanic nest. Its pyrophore is immature, producing only a faint puff of hot mist. Over months, as it matures and accumulates catalytic minerals from rocks and bone marrow from prey, its glands develop fully. The first spark that ignites is more smoke than flame, but each feeding, each ingestion of sulfur-rich lizards or iron-laden fish enhances its capabilities. By adulthood, the dragon's fiery roar is both a weapon and a song, echoing through mountain canyons and forest valleys alike. Before we continue into part 2, where we'll explore how different cultures harnessed or fought these dragons, and how modern science could replicate their pyrophoric secrets, pause for a moment. Next, we'll examine legendary fire breathers in history, from the Persian Azi-Dahaka to the Chinese Jiaolong, and see if any archaeological evidence might back these tales. We'll also peek into cutting-edge research in biopyrotechnics that draw inspiration from dragon myths. Don't go away. When the Persian king faced the terror of the Azi-Dahaka, chroniclers described a beast that exhaled not just flame but searing plumes of brimstone so hot that they blackened the sky. The name, Dahaka itself, is believed to derive from ancient words for to burn, hinting that early observers recognized a living creature wielding true fire. Some historians point to inscriptions near Hamadan that speak of a dragon's den inside nearby mountains, where natural gas vents mingled with sulfur deposits, perhaps fueling a proto-dragon's metabolic furnace. Whether myth or misremembered geology, such accounts suggest that human cultures have long observed fire-emitting phenomena and projected them onto the image of a dragon. Far to the east, Chinese scrolls depict the Jiaolong spiraling through rivers and threatening villages with torrents of flame and steam. Archaeologists excavating Han Dynasty sites have uncovered bronze dragon statuettes with tiny cavities in their mouths, possibly used as incense burners, releasing smoke before a flame was applied. This two-stage ritual may mirror the dragon's own biological sequence: chemical vapor first, ignition second. In festivals, performers coated dragon heads with oil and charcoal, creating dramatic breath effects that paid homage to the elementals these beasts once commanded in legend. Europeans, too, recorded fire breath. In the 12th century, Historia Monacensis, monks wrote of a dragon that torched entire harvest fields overnight, its glowing breath driving people to flee. Curiously, these accounts coincide with reports of spontaneous marsh fires along the Norfolk Broads, peat ignitions fueled by subsurface methane and heat. It's tempting to think that such natural occurrences birthed tales of monstrous reptiles whose internal pyrophores matched the very flames emerging from the earth itself. But beyond folklore, modern science has begun to mimic dragon biology. Researchers at the University of Geneva developed microbial fuel cells that produce hydrogen gas and methane from organic waste. By combining these with carefully controlled oxidizers, lab prototypes have demonstrated brief flame jets, essentially breathing fire through engineered gut-like chambers. Though the scales of a real dragon remain speculative, these biopyrotechnic experiments show that living systems can be coaxed into producing combustible gases and igniting them safely. The next frontier may be living firewalls or flame-generating robots inspired by dragon throat mechanics. If we could sequence the genome of a dragon, or its lab-grown equivalent, we'd likely find clusters of genes analogous to those coding for venom in snakes or acid production in bombardier beetles. The regulatory sequences would orchestrate the expression of pyrophoric enzymes only when needed, preventing self-harm. Enzyme cascades might convert amino acids into long-chain hydrocarbons, then into volatile ethers stored in lipid vesicles. Complementary oxidase enzymes could refine salts into potent acids. Trigger genes would respond to neural signals, so when a dragon snarls, its brain floods the pyrophore with a discharge, igniting the expelled mix. In exploring dragon physiology, biologists also ponder their social behaviors around fire. Fire breathing is an extreme display. In many species, extravagant displays serve mating or territorial functions. Imagine breeding seasons where males compete through aerial duels of flame, igniting spires of flame high above mountain peaks, while females choose the brightest, most controlled blaze. Courtship dances might involve coiling in smoke and sparks, demonstrating both strength and precision. Conversely, younger dragons might hone their flame in mock combat with siblings, learning the limits of their heat and timing. Environmental impact is another consideration. A dragon community could reshape landscapes. Charred clearings become fertile ash beds for specialized flora. Fire-sculpted canyons carve new waterways. Sulfurous emissions alter soil chemistry. In some regions, entire ecosystems might depend on periodic dragon fires, much as forests rely on natural wildfires for regeneration. Local human populations might cultivate crops that thrive on dragon ash or mine volcanic vents in hopes of luring or appeasing these great lizards. Yet dragons wouldn't be invincible. Kings and sorcerers devised countermeasures. Reflective shields polished with mica to deflect flames, cloaks woven from asbestos-like fibers to withstand intense heat, and alchemical dampeners, sprays of water mixed with clay and plant extracts to smother fire on contact. Tales recount valiant knights carrying copper rods charged from thunderstorm-charged clouds, creating electric arcs to disrupt pyrophore ignition. In Eastern sagas, monks incapacitated dragons by singing ultrasonic hymns that shattered their throat crystals. These legends, blending fact and fantasy, allude to an arms race between dragonkind and humankind. Today, we honor dragons in art, literature, and film. But scientific curiosity pushes us to ask, could we resurrect a dragon's flame in the lab? Biotechnologists imagine designing synthetic glands in yeast or bacteria, turning them into living flame sources. Such organisms might power microthrusters in spacecraft or serve as emergency flame tools where conventional fuel is scarce. Of course, ethical and safety concerns loom large. No one wants rogue pyrophoric microbes setting neighborhoods ablaze. In the realm of virtual reality and gaming, developers strive to capture the authenticity of dragon fire. By simulating the fluid dynamics of mixed vapor and flame, VR immerses players in the scorching breath of a dragon, complete with heat distortion and embers that scorch the screen. These digital pyrophores pay homage to the intricate biology we've speculated about, highlighting how fantasy feeds back into science and technology. Ultimately, the legend of fire-breathing dragons endures because it taps into a primal fascination with harnessing the elements. Fire once symbolized humanity's ascendancy over nature. Dragons personify the untamed fury of flame itself. By imagining creatures that internalize fire as fuel, we explore the boundaries of life, chemistry, and evolution. Whether dragons ever roamed our world is unlikely, but in understanding how they might breathe fire, we glimpse the marvel of nature's potential and our own drive to replicate the impossible. So next time you feel the warmth of a campfire or watch sparks dance in the night, remember, somewhere between myth and molecule, the secrets of dragons wait to be uncovered. And in that discovery lies not just a story of beasts, but a tale of human ingenuity chasing the fire within.